You ever have someone look you dead in the eyes and tell you you're not enough? Not in a screaming fight, not in a moment of anger, but calm, collected, like it's simply the truth? That was the night my girlfriend, Claire, told me I was too broke for her. And the worst part? She said it with a laugh. We'd been together almost 2 years. I thought we were solid, late-night takeout dinners, long Sunday walks, small vacations to places we could afford. Nothing flashy, but real. At least, I thought it was real. Claire, though, she'd grown up different. Her dad was a dentist with a boat and a country club membership. Her mom ran a boutique. Designer handbags, champagne brunches, ski trips every winter. This was normal for her. At first, she said she liked how down-to-earth I was. She claimed it was refreshing compared to the shallow guys she'd dated before. I believed her. I let myself believe that she saw something in me that went beyond numbers in a bank account. But that illusion cracked one Friday night. We were invited to a rooftop bar downtown, one of those places where cocktails cost more than my weekly groceries. I told her, "Babe, maybe we skip this one. Rent's due, and I don't want to stretch it." She rolled her eyes, and that roll cut deeper than any insult. "God, Mark," she said, tossing her hair back like I was embarrassing her. "You're always worried about money. It's just drinks. Don't be so broke all the time." That word, broke, hit me like a punch. She didn't whisper it, either. 2 of her friends at the table laughed into their glasses. One of them even muttered, "Guess some people just aren't built for this lifestyle." I felt the blood rise in my face. I wanted to leave right then, but something made me stay, sit there, sip water, and let them think they were above me. My chest was burning, but I swallowed it down. Later, as we left, I tried to talk to her. "Claire, what you said, that wasn't fair." She didn't even slow her steps. "I'm just being honest. I don't want to spend my life budgeting every meal or splitting bills at diners. I want more. And maybe you just can't give that." Her words echoed in my head the whole night. Couldn't give that. Too broke. Maybe not enough. I barely slept, staring at the ceiling, replaying every time she'd hesitated when the check came, every look she gave when I pulled out coupons, every sigh when I said we should save instead of splurge. Maybe it had been building for months, and I just hadn't wanted to see it. But here's the thing about me, I don't run from insults. I keep them, tuck them away like fuel. And that night, something shifted. She thought I wasn't enough? That I'd never measure up? Fine. She was about to learn just how wrong she was. I woke up with the words still in my mouth like metal. Broke. It sat on my tongue while I brushed my teeth, while the coffee groaned in the French press, while the cheap blinds let in that thin ribbon of morning light that always made my apartment look honest. I pulled out a notebook and wrote 3 lines at the top of a page. What I can control. What I can build. Who I become. Not money, not yet. But those 3 things. Mine. I listed skills like a man inventorying a garage. I could sketch, measure, and make things square. I did small repairs for neighbors. During lockdown, I'd built a fold-out desk from scraps because my kitchen table wasn't cutting it. People always asked about that desk. Nikhil from work had nagged me for months. "Dude, sell that thing. People would buy it." I always waved him off. Who was going to pay for something I made in my living room? I texted him anyway. "Got time at lunch? Need a sanity check." We met by the taco truck 2 blocks from the office. Nikhil's eyes were warm behind his smudged glasses. "Claire okay?" he asked. "She's honest," I said, and told him about the rooftop and the laugh and the word. He chewed slowly, then pointed his taco at me like a gavel. So make money. Not to impress her. To prove you wrong about you. I nodded. I was thinking about the desk. The wall-mounted one? Yeah. It folds down clean. No legs to trip over. Stores cables. Holds up to 50 pounds. Name, he said. I blinked. It's a piece of wood, not a baby. Everything that matters needs a name. What about? Fold line? Hinged? Nook desk? I smirked. You're impossible. Good. Be impossible back, he said. I'll help with photos and a page. We launch pre-orders this weekend. I nearly laughed. Pre-orders? A page. It sounded like another world. But something in me, something that felt like steel warming in a forge, settled. Okay, I said. Let's try. That night, I turned my apartment into a woodshop. I dragged the old workbench from the closet, spread a drop cloth, lined up sandpaper, hinges, a tin of matte black screws. By the time Claire texted the place smelled like cedar and coffee and new decisions. She walked in, stopped dead in the doorway, and looked around at the clamps and the tape measure and the tidy drift of sawdust on my rug. What is this? A project, I said. Remember the desk? I'm making a few. Might list them online. You're joking. She kept her coat on. Mark, this is a mess. We have plans, remember? Olivia's birthday at Fig and Vine? Everyone's going. They booked the private dining room. I thought we agreed I'd sit this one out, I said carefully. Rent week. God, Mark. She exhaled like I'd failed a test. It's a birthday dinner, not a yacht. Just bring a nice gift so I don't look. She caught herself. So we don't look cheap. What's nice? She shrugged. I don't know. Something decent. A small Celine wallet? Or a silk scarf? Nothing crazy. I set the drill down. How much is nothing crazy? She hesitated. A few hundred. I can't drop $400 on a gift for someone I barely know. It's 12, actually, she murmured. For the wallet. But everyone will be dressed. There'll be photos. There it was again, her real worry. Photos. Me, a shadow in them. I felt that old heat rise, but I stayed measured. I'm going to pass. She stared at me, then at the tools. This is why, she said softly, almost clinical. This right here. You're always building something small. Always scrapping. I want a life where I don't have to think about coupons and DIY. You want a life that looks expensive, I said. Not one that is built. Her mouth tightened. You're being dramatic. Maybe I'm done being quiet. We stood in the hum of my small apartment. A car horn wailed 3 floors down and the kettle clicked itself off. Claire folded her arms. Are you coming or not? No, I said. She nodded once, slow, like a judge stamping a paper. Fine. She turned, then half turned back, hunting for something to throw. Good luck with your plywood. After she left, I paced in the sawdust and breathed like a diver. I could feel the old ache knocking. Fear of losing her, fear of being alone, fear of being exactly what she said. I put on music instead. Not loud. Just enough to carry me through the steps. Measure. Mark. Cut. Sand. Hinge. Level. Repeat. At midnight I sent Nickel a photo. The desk folded up, clean, matte, beautiful. A square of intention on my wall. He replied in seconds. That's it. Shoot a simple video. No talking. Just the fold. I'll spin up a landing page. We called the thing Nook Desk because it made sense, because it sounded like space conjured from nowhere. I wrote a simple line for the top of the page, a desk that disappears when you're done. Nickel added a single button, pre-order $179. It felt terrifying, like speaking a number out loud to the universe and waiting to be laughed at. I posted a 30-second clip on my Dusty account, hands pulling down the panel, magnets snapping, laptop open, then everything vanishing with one firm push. No hashtags. No voiceover. Just proof. At 1:07 a.m., my phone buzzed. New order. 1 times Nook Desk, Olivia P. River Heights. For a second, I forgot to breathe. It wasn't a friend. It wasn't a pity buy. It was a stranger with a credit card and a reason. My knees went a little weak, then steady. The second ping landed before I found the screenshot button. Then a third. I laughed into my sleeve so I wouldn't wake my neighbor with the baby. Then I set an early alarm, swept my floor, and laid out materials like a man setting a table for guests. At 8:15 a.m., Claire texted a photo from the dinner I skipped. Long table, tall candles, friends in black, sparkles. Her caption, "Wish you'd been there." It was fire. I typed and deleted 3 replies. In the end, I sent nothing. Instead, I dragged a sheet of birch into the hallway and apologized to Mr. Chen when he opened his door and frowned at the commotion. He waved me off, half smiling. "Build," he said. "Just not at 6 in morning. Deal." By noon, I'd cut 2 more. By 2, my forearms ached and my kitchen was a factory, and Nikhil pinged me, "We're at 10 pre-orders." I set a cap at 20 for the first batch so we don't drown. I stared at the number, and then out the window at the small square of sky that belonged to my address. It was still mine. My cheap blinds still let in that honest light. But the room felt bigger, like I'd elbowed out a few more inches of air. Outside, a breeze lifted. The apartment smelled like cedar and coffee and something new beginning. I turned the music up 1 notch and reached for the next hinge, the next line, the next chance to make my life fold down clean and lift back up stronger. Orders didn't stop at 20. By the second day, Nikhil texted me in all caps, "We're at 50. What did you do?" I hadn't done anything special. Just filmed another short clip, this time showing how the desk held up a monitor, books, even a mug of coffee without wobbling, and posted it. People started sharing it. One account with thousands of followers commented, "Why doesn't IKEA make this?" That's when it blew up. By the end of the week, we had 200 pre-orders. 200. At $179 each. That was more money than I made in a month at my job. My phone kept buzzing with PayPal notifications. It didn't feel real. But with money came pressure. I had no workshop, no team, no plan for shipping. My tiny apartment was already drowning in sawdust. Mr. Chen from across the hall peeked in one morning and chuckled, "Looks like you opened a factory in here." Claire, though. She was nowhere. She texted less, called even less. When she did, it was always about what I wasn't doing. "Why can't you just come out with me?" Or, "Do you really think this hobby is worth skipping dinners for?" I'd reply with photos of the desks, screenshots of orders, but she only sent back dry replies, thumbs up emojis, one-word comments. Then came the night everything boiled over. She invited me to her friend's gallery opening. Fancy crowd, champagne flutes, men in tailored jackets. I wore my best shirt and shoes, still modest but clean. When I showed up, Claire looked me up and down and whispered through her smile, "Couldn't you at least try to look like you belong here?" Her friends circled us, all talking about stocks, vacations, designer furniture. I mostly listened. At one point, one guy, tall, smug, asked me, "So, Mark, what do you do?" I hesitated, then said, "I build furniture. I just launched a wall-mounted desk that folds up." The table went quiet for a beat. Then someone laughed. "So, like a shelf?" Claire's cheeks flushed, but not from pride. Embarrassment. "He's been really into this little project," she said quickly, sipping her drink. "But, you know, it's just a side thing." That little project had just paid for my rent twice over. I wanted to call her out, but I bit my tongue. Later, when we left, I finally snapped. "Why do you downplay everything I do?" I asked. She sighed, exasperated. "Because, Mark, it's embarrassing. They're talking about stocks and investments, and you're talking about plywood. You don't get it." "No, Claire," I said, my voice steady. "You don't get it." The silence after that was heavier than any argument we'd had before. That night, I worked until 3 a.m., drilling, sanding, packing. And when the 100th order notification buzzed on my phone, I didn't feel tired. I felt alive. By week 3, my apartment was unlivable. Every surface was stacked with planks, hinges, shipping boxes. I'd wake up with sawdust in my hair, fall asleep to the smell of varnish. Even Mr. Chen knocked one night, holding his toddler, asking if I could please stop drilling past midnight. I nodded, apologetic, and realized it was time to move out of my shoebox factory. Nikhil helped me scout for space. After a dozen overpriced listings, we found it, a dusty garage unit 2 blocks from my building, abandoned since some mechanic closed shop years ago. Rust on the shutters, cracked windows, but cheap. I signed a 3-month lease on the spot. That same night, I moved in the first load of tools, dragging everything down the street on a squeaky dolly. My heart thudded with every step, not from the weight, but from the feeling, like I was laying the first stone of something real. "Looks like a mess," Nikhil said, standing in the middle of the empty space. "Yeah," I replied, grinning. "But it's my mess." The orders didn't stop. If anything, they picked up. A mid-sized influencer with a work-from-home hacks channel shared my clip. Overnight, we hit 400 pre-orders. I nearly dropped my phone. The flood came with problems, though. Wood suppliers were backlogged. Shipping labels cost more than I'd planned. Some buyers were impatient, firing off emails. "Where's my desk? When will mine ship?" I tried to answer every message, but the anxiety crawled under my skin. Still, every desk I finished made me stronger. My hands blistered, my back screamed, but every bolt tightened was a promise. Proof I wasn't too broke, just building at my own pace. Then Claire called. Out of nowhere. "Dinner at my parents' house this Saturday," she said. "Be there at 7. Her tone wasn't a request. I almost refused, but curiosity tugged at me. Maybe she wanted to make peace. Maybe she wanted to show I wasn't a total failure. Saturday came. I showed up in my best shirt, pressed, clean. Claire opened the door, her expression tight. "You're late," she whispered, though I was right on time. At the table, her father gave me a long, skeptical look. The kind men in tailored suits reserve for waiters who bring the wrong wine. "So, Mark," he said, cutting his steak, "Claire tells us you've started a project? Something with wood." "A business," I corrected. "I build folding desks. We just passed 400 pre-orders." He chewed slowly. 400. And how much does one of these desks sell for? $179. Her mother's eyebrow arched. That's not much. Can you really live on that? I felt Claire stiffen beside me. She was waiting for me to stumble, to fold. I didn't. It's more than enough to build on. And people love the product. It's growing fast. Her father smirked. Growth is one thing. Sustainability is another. People lose money chasing hobbies. Claire's hand brushed my arm under the table, but it wasn't comforting, it was a warning. I smiled tightly. This isn't a hobby. It's a company. And I'm not losing. The rest of dinner was polite but cold. When I left, Claire pulled me aside on the porch. You embarrassed me, she hissed. I blinked. By defending myself? You sounded delusional. They were trying to help, to give you perspective. You don't need to act like you figured it all out. I stared at her, the words pressing hard in my throat. Too broke. Embarrassing. Delusional. Every label she threw at me was another brick on a wall between us. Maybe I have figured something out, I said finally. And maybe that scares you. Her eyes flashed. Don't make this about me. But as I walked away, I realized it already was. 2 days later, an email landed in my inbox. The subject line made me freeze. Bulk order inquiry, Workspace Collective. It was a co-working chain. They wanted 50 units. 50. At once. My heart raced as I read their message again. If I pulled this off, it wouldn't just prove Claire wrong. It would change everything. I read the email 3 times, making sure it wasn't a scam. 50 units. 1 order. A deposit larger than my entire savings account sitting there on the line if I said yes. I forwarded it to Nikhil with shaky hands. Within seconds, he called. Dude, this is it. You have to take it. I can't even keep up with the regular orders, I muttered, pacing the garage. I'm barely sleeping as it is. He didn't hesitate. So scale. Hire. Outsource. Whatever it takes. You don't say no to this. That night, I lay awake on the cot I'd dragged into the garage, staring at the cracked ceiling. 50 units. I could see it all in my head, rows of desks lined up, glossy wood catching the light. Not just a side hustle anymore. A business. In the morning, I emailed back one word. Yes. Scaling up meant cash, and cash meant risk. I emptied my savings, maxed my credit card, and struck a deal with a small workshop across town. They'd cut the wood panels, I'd handle assembly and finishing. It wasn't perfect, but it bought me time. I worked like a man possessed. 10-hour shifts at my day job, then straight to the garage until dawn. I learned to live on coffee, blister tape, and the sound of drills. When the first bulk shipment stood finished, 50 gleaming Nook desks stacked on pallets, I wanted to cry. I snapped photos, sent them to the client, and waited for the transfer to hit. When it did, I stared at the numbers on my account in disbelief. For the first time in years, I wasn't scraping by. I was ahead. Claire, though, didn't celebrate. She came by the garage one evening, heels clicking against the concrete, perfume slicing through the smell of sawdust. She looked at the rows of desks like they were alien. So, this is what you've been hiding out for? Hiding, I said, wiping my hands. I've been working. We just shipped 50 units. She crossed her arms. Mark, you can't live like this. You look exhausted. You're covered in dust. And for what? A few $1,000s. It's more than that. It's not enough. Her voice sharpened. My friends are moving into condos, getting promotions, planning trips to Europe. And you're here, making shelves. That word again. Shelves. I bit down hard. They're not shelves. And I'm not broke anymore. This is real, Claire. It's working. She stared at me for a long moment, then sighed like she was tired of carrying me. Mark, you have to choose. This project or us. Because I can't keep pretending this is going somewhere. The words hung in the air like smoke. I didn't answer. Not then. My hands were still shaking when she left, the sound of her heels echoing down the street. 2 nights later, Nikhil and I celebrated with takeout on overturned boxes. He raised his soda can. To proving people wrong, he said. I smirked. 1 down. 1 more to go. Because somewhere inside me, the decision had already been made. If Claire wanted me to choose, I would. But not the way she expected. After Claire's ultimatum, the silence between us stretched like a rope pulled too tight. Days went by with nothing but short texts, her asking if I'd thought about what she said, me replying with vague, half-hearted lines. The truth. I didn't need more time. I already knew. But breaking clean wasn't easy. For 2 years, she'd been a part of my routines. Sunday walks, movie nights, the person I called when something good or bad happened. Walking away meant cutting out a piece of myself. Still, every time I looked at the desks stacked neatly in my garage, I felt something I never felt when she called me too broke. Pride. The tipping point came at her friend's engagement party. She begged me to come, said it would mean a lot. Against my better judgment, I went. The venue was all glass walls and chandeliers, champagne pyramids glinting under soft light. Everyone was dressed like they'd stepped out of a catalog. Claire clung to my arm, smiling too brightly, introducing me as Mark, my boyfriend. He does furniture design. Furniture design. Not a business, not Nook Desk. Just a neat little hobby to dress me up for her friends. Halfway through the night, I overheard her whispering to Olivia, the same friend she wanted me to buy that overpriced gift for. I'm just waiting for him to grow out of this phase, Claire said, sipping her drink. It's sweet, but I need stability, you know? Not some woodshop fantasy. Olivia laughed. Well, you've always dated projects. At least this one's handy. They both giggled. My stomach twisted. I left without saying goodbye. The next morning, I called Claire. My voice was calm, steadier than I expected. Claire, I said, we're done. She gasped. What? Mark, don't be ridiculous. You're just upset. No, I said firmly. You don't believe in me. You never did. And I can't spend my life proving myself to someone who only wants to laugh behind my back. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then her voice turned sharp, cold. You'll regret this. You think you're building something big, but it's just scraps. And when it collapses, don't come running back. Click. The line went dead. I sat there, phone still in my hand, and felt free. Nikhil showed up that night with beers and a grin. So, you finally did it. Yeah, I said. Good. Now you can focus on the people who do believe in you. He raised a toast to the future. And for the first time in months, I wasn't weighed down by doubt. Just momentum. Weeks passed. Orders doubled again, then tripled. The Workspace Collective deal turned into a contract. 50 units a month, steady cash flow. Then another email came in, this one from a boutique interior designer. She wanted to feature Nook Desk in a magazine spread about modern minimal workspaces. I almost dropped my phone. The photo shoot happened in a pristine studio, white walls and bright lights. I stood there, watching strangers admire my creation, watching a photographer adjust angles like it was a piece of art. And for the first time, it hit me. I wasn't chasing scraps. I was building something real. Claire's voice still echoed in my head sometimes. Too broke, embarrassing, delusional. But now those words didn't sting. They fueled me. Because I knew, sooner or later, she'd see exactly how wrong she'd been. But as I said it, I didn't realize the biggest test was still coming. Because success attracts not just attention, but enemies. And one of them was already circling. It started small. An email from a customer complaining their desk arrived scratched. Then another about a delayed shipment. At first, I chalked it up to growing pains. Every business hits bumps when scaling. But then came the third, the fourth, the 10th. And then, the review. A popular home office blogger posted a scathing article, "Nook Desk, overhyped shelf with hinges." He claimed our wood was cheap, our hinges flimsy, and, most painfully, that the founder is just another hustler trying to look successful. The words cut deep. I hadn't heard "hustler" like that since Claire's crowd laughed at me. Orders slowed. Not stopped, but slowed, like a faucet turned halfway off. For the first time in months, the buzzing of PayPal notifications went quiet. I sat in the workshop that night, staring at the half-finished desks, feeling the weight press down. What if the blogger was right? What if I'd built this whole thing on scraps and stubbornness? Nikhil refused to let me spiral. He stormed in with takeout and slapped his hand on the table. "Do you really think one bitter blogger defines you?" I muttered, "People read it. Orders are dropping." "Then prove him wrong," Nikhil shot back. "You built this from nothing. You're gonna let some keyboard warrior scare you off." I wanted to believe him. But the doubt clawed at me. And that's when I found out where the review really came from. A message popped up in my inbox, from someone anonymous, but the words dripped with familiarity. "Should have taken Claire back. You'd have been safe with her family. Instead, you'll watch Nook Desk burn." My blood went cold. I dug deeper, with Nikhil's help. Turns out the blogger had been nudged, paid, to write the hit piece. And the trail led back to the Harrisons. Claire's family. They hadn't liked me turning them down. So they decided to crush me. The fury that hit me was like fire in my chest. They wanted me to fail, to crawl back, to admit they were right. But no. Not this time. I stood in the middle of my workshop, surrounded by sawdust and sweat, and swore to myself, I'll rise higher than they can ever reach. And when I do, they'll choke on their own words. The next morning, I filmed a new video, raw, unpolished, just me in the workshop. People are saying Nook Desk is just a shelf. They're wrong. I built this with my own hands, for people who need space, who need something real. If you've got doubts, fine, let me prove it. Every order from today forward gets a lifetime guarantee. If it breaks, I'll replace it. Personally. I posted it and went back to work. My hands shook the whole time. But within hours, the comments started flooding in. This is why I trust small creators. Lifetime guarantee. Say less. Supporting you just for the guts, man. Orders started ticking up again. Slow at first. Then faster. Then back to a roar. And as the dust settled, I realized something. This wasn't just about proving Claire wrong anymore. It wasn't even about money. It was about proving me right. The guarantee video changed everything. What started as a desperate gamble turned into my boldest move yet. Orders didn't just recover, they skyrocketed. People shared the clip across platforms, calling it authentic and a breath of fresh air in a world of mass-produced junk. Within a month, I wasn't just filling pre-orders, I was negotiating with retailers. A startup accelerator reached out, offering mentorship and funding. And the Workspace Collective? They doubled their contract. One morning, standing in my workshop-turned-studio, I realized I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was running a company. The real moment, though, came when I was invited to a small business expo downtown. They gave me a booth, a banner, and a chance to showcase Nook Desk to investors and press. I set up my best model, polished until it gleamed, and waited. The crowd was steady, curious, impressed. Cameras flashed. People signed interest lists. And then I saw them. Claire. With her parents. They hadn't expected me there. They hadn't expected me to thrive. Claire's eyes widened, her lips parting like she wanted to say something. Her father's expression tightened, his jaw clenching as he took in the banner with my logo, the crowd at my booth, the magazine article taped proudly to the side. For once, I didn't flinch. Claire stepped forward. Mark, wow. This is... I cut her off with a smile. Calm. Steady. This is mine. Her cheeks flushed, her parents stiff beside her. The silence that followed was sweeter than applause. I didn't need to gloat. The proof was standing all around us. Customers, investors, opportunity. Everything they said I'd never have. I turned back to a group of students asking about my process, leaving Claire frozen there, words unsaid. That night, after the expo closed, I stood alone in the quiet, looking at the banner rolled up under my arm. My phone buzzed with new orders, new messages, new chances. And I thought back to the night on that rooftop when she laughed and called me too broke. I whispered the words again, but this time, they didn't sting. They felt like a trophy, a reminder of where I started and how far I'd come. Because I wasn't too broke. I was too strong to stay broken. And I'd proved it, to her, to them, to the world. But most importantly, to myself.